catch my ass cracking.
That's funny.
My name is Alex.
How long have you been in the game?
I've been in the automotive industry since 2017, so that puts us at, what, 8 years?
First name Ricardo, last name Gallegos, and I go by Rick, Ricky, Ricardo, Ricky Bobby, anything, I don't mind. I've been wrenching for about 10 years now, 10, 11 years. Started fresh out of high school, so learned a lot in 10 years.
When did you realize you were going to be a mechanic?
Oh, that's a tough one. I didn't actually, if I'm being completely honest. I worked at an engineering job in Huntington Beach at the time, and I wasn't happy with the line of work. And the opportunity to become an apprentice mechanic came up, and I took it.
I think it just stems from when I was little, taking my toys apart and putting them back together. When I kind of translated as an adult. Do it, boys. Don't do it. Don't become a mechanic. Boys and girls, because there's girls doing it now too. Good question. My dad got me into cars, but it was started way before that too. I had a neighbor that had some nice cars, and he was the one that introduced me to them in the sense of sportsmanship, or like, you know, being into cars. So, by the way, that same neighbor was the one that introduced me to GTRs, R34s.
Do you like GTR?
It's a cool car.
Do you have a GTR?
Who knows?
Do you remember the first car you ever worked on?
Yes, it was a Hyundai Transversal. My dad told me take the transmission out of it. No knowledge of what I was doing, so yeah. First ever job in the shop was deep. They just threw me in the deep end, man. It's just like, you either got it or you don't. And yeah, luckily it worked out.
What's the story behind why you started your shop?
When I started my shop, I was already 2 years into the industry, and I had been working under another shop here in Southern California, a very reputable one. And at that point, I felt that I was able to maybe do stuff on my own that I wanted to do that we weren't doing at that shop. At that time, we were doing a lot of Japanese vehicles, and I was more interested in the European, especially with the BMWs. And I felt that it was time for me to make the jump and start doing things on my own at that time. So that was back in late 2018. So, and ever since then, it's just been, you know, working day in, day out on these cars, you know. So, but if I were to turn back time and, you know, choose again, I would definitely choose it again, for sure. Every day is different. I'll be honest, there's not a day that's gone by that has been the same, and I think that's where I really enjoy the work, because it's always something different and new every single day. But for the most part, on a day-to-day basis, it's trying to come in here at a reasonable hour, usually 9 a.m., and trying to be as productive as possible with the cars that come in that need to be serviced, any projects that are currently in the queue to be done. You know, at the same time, we're also doing like parts ordering, contacting customers, you know, trying to juggle many aspects of the business on a day in, day out basis. So if you wanted to say that's just 12 hours of, you know, madness of a shop and trying to make sure to make everything work as fluid as possible without having any kind of issues, for sure. As a funny story, I chose it because ever since I was younger, I've always loved the BMW M5. I always thought that was a really cool car. 4 doors, you know, lots of horsepower, usually a manual transmission, rear-wheel drive. I mean, can't get any better than that for any driving enthusiast. And being that I was 21 at the time when I bought my first M5, and I quickly realized how expensive the repair bills were when you take it somewhere, I had to quickly adapt and learn how to work on the car myself, because I knew for a fact that I was not in a position that I could afford to pay someone to repair the car, for one, And two, I always took it upon myself to also learn how to fix the car as well. So that's really where the emphasis on the BMWs and the European side of things came into play. It was really just because I was a broke 21-year-old college student and, you know, had to learn how to fix the car.
Most common issues people bring up car fixing?
Most common issues, usually noise. I would say, hey, my car's making this weird noise, or my car is clunking, or it's like, just, you know, it's funny when our customers try to like describe noises, and, you know, I always get a kick out of it. Yeah, usually it's always a noise is what gets people concerned about, and they bring them in for us to take a look at and diagnose for sure.
You know, typical wear and tear, so suspension, brakes, oil changes. Yeah, that's your typical maintenance.
Is there any cars that you dislike or even hate?
I used to not like working on certain Porsche models, but as I gotten older, I kind of just embraced the challenges and just said, you know what, it's nuts and bolts at the end of the day, and every car is just, you know, it's the same thing, just a little different. And when there's some difficulties when repairing these cars, you know, I just like, well, it's just another day, we just got to get through it.
I enjoy working on anything and everything. I don't like this, I don't like that. It's just, you know, work is work, and, you know, just blessed to have it come through the door, that's all. I might have nightmares about a Toyota Sienna here for a few weeks, but that rear valve cover was a real pain in the butt. But other than that, no, just take it in stride and, you know, get it done. Yeah. Pocket screwdrivers, lifesavers, man.
I mean, most people would probably say 10mm socket, you know, some ratchets and stuff like that. To be honest, I think one tool that I can't live without is a stethoscope. The one that doctors use, you know, and they put the little thing on your heart to listen to your heartbeat. It's the same thing with a car. They make a mechanic stethoscope, and it's got a long pointer on it, and you can put it on various parts of the car, and you can listen for, you know, like anything that doesn't sound right, you know. And it comes down to just listening. And there's a few times where listening to a car can diagnose it, whereas most people will run over to like a scanner and plug into the car, and then there's no fault codes. But for me, I think a stethoscope is one of them for sure, because I have diagnosed quite a few cars with just that basic tool before.
With issues, what would you say is the hardest part about running a shop?
Hardest part about running the shop, I think it's really having the manpower, not having enough hands on board, especially skilled hands. It's really difficult to scale the business and be able to work on every car that comes in. You know, we're not a big shop by any means, but we still get a couple cars a day. And, you know, when it comes down to just one person, it can be really difficult to juggle all that on top of the day-to-day operations as well. So I would say biggest issue is just manpower. Most rewarding is being able to really solve a lot of our customers' problems. You know, they come in with a problem, and our job is to fix it. The problem is the vehicles. And when we're able to diagnose the vehicle correctly and repair it correctly and ensure that the repairs are done, you know, where the customer's cars are back to a state of health where they expect it to be, it's always a good feeling when they're able to pick up their car and know that everything was done right. If somebody were to start a business, what's the one most important thing that they should know? Try to stay true to yourself. You know, if you're a genuinely good person, stick to that. You know, don't let people walk all over you. Don't let people take advantage of you. You know, ground yourself and really keep boundaries between you and personal and businesses. It's something that I have tried to improve on over the years, and had I had it from the very beginning, I think things could be different in my business, both in my personal life and my business life. But for sure, if somebody were starting out, I would say be true to yourself and really have a lot of solid principles and foundations in place, so that way you can spot when people are being genuinely good to you, or they're just looking to just take advantage and, you know, do whatever they can get out of their advantage. No surprise, it's just dealing with the public. You know, everybody's different. Everybody has different reactions to things. Everybody has different emotions to things. So, you know, it can be overwhelming at times dealing with, you know, certain individuals that, you know, take information, you know, differently. I mean, that is one of the aspects that is very difficult to handle on a day-to-day basis for sure.
Have you ever had to tell someone that their car wasn't working?
Oh, I do it all the time. I do it all the time. I think in this industry, it's best to be transparent and honest with your customers. And when a vehicle comes in and it's realistically beyond repair and it's worth putting money into, I always tell our customers, like, you know what, it'd probably be best that you sell this car and put the money into something a little newer, you know, so that way you have something more reliable than, you know, having the car constantly come back to me, and then we start painting this picture very quickly of like, oh my, I spent so much money on a mechanic, you know. If a car is not worth fixing, I will tell you up front. That's just the full stop. No, I have no issue doing that. Just being a good person.
Do you have any regrets?
Oh, hell yeah. I don't think anybody on this earth could say they have no regrets. Like, I have so many off the top of my head for sure, you know.
Would you say you have work-life balance?
No, I absolutely have no work-life balance. I don't think I ever really will. I haven't had work-life balance since I was 19 when I started college. Just never figured that out. Maybe one day I will, but for right now, there's no such thing.
That's a good one. First one was a few years back when I used to work at another independent shop. So the daughter's car, the dad brought it into the shop saying that the seat stopped working, the driver's seat, and he just had us take a look at it, and we found, you know, something very personal under the seat, preventing it from moving back and forth. So yeah, that was an interesting one.
And weirdest for sure is I had a customer one time, this was back when I had my first shop. I had finished the car, and I kind of had this bad habit of finishing cars pretty late. I texted the customer, like, hey, car's done. Oh, okay, cool. He's like, can you drop it off somewhere? And I'm like, sure, where at? And that never bugged me. But the address that he gave me after I realized was very strange. It was an address to some mansion in Beverly Hills, but come to find out it wasn't any mansion. It was like a Scientology mansion. And I just was like, you know what? I think it's best you just come pick up the car. And then he started giving me all these like, hey, you have to punch in this code, check in with security. So that sounds too much for me. So nothing against, you know, Scientology or anything, but it was just when I started looking into the address, I was like, wow, this is kind of crazy, you know? Like, I was just like, I'm okay, you know? Didn't want to deal with any of that stuff.
And then another one, we had a pretty particular looking lady come in to the shop and drop off her car and have us work on it, and there just happened to be bundles of ones all over the trunk. So yeah, that was another interesting one.
Funniest, oh dude, this one's really hard. I mean, I've had people offer me all kinds of like illegal paraphernalia that shouldn't be offered, you know, and I thought that was kind of funny, but I always declined. God, probably at least a few times people have just offered just the randomest stuff. I'm not gonna elaborate on it, but I'm pretty sure you can definitely know what I've been offered. So I would just leave it at that.
Don't touch them, please. You're just making your mechanic's life a nightmare if you are touching your car. So if you know nothing about it, leave it alone. Take it to somebody who knows.
Do a lot of research on the particular model that you have, make and model. There's a lot of good information on the internet that can kind of pinpoint, you know, common issues with the car and what to look for, and also your recommended maintenance schedule, you know, for basic things like oil change, coolant, stuff like that. That way you kind of know beforehand if you take it to a shop, you know, you can kind of spot when the shop is going to try to take advantage of you, or, you know, if they're really being honest.
What's one thing I wish they understood was that 90% of the time we'll get a car in here that completely like gone past the service interval, and it becomes a bigger bill than it should have been to begin with. One thing I would say to customers is take care of your car, do maintenance, have it checked up at least once a year, if not every 6 months. Make sure everything's in order, because it can become costly over time?
Honestly, it's kind of tough to say. I think maybe one thing that kind of goes over a lot of people when it comes to repairing their cars is the fact that there is a physical labor aspect involved. People always associate the labor charge, and they usually will say like, wow, labor is pretty expensive, In the grand scheme of things, when we finish an entire day here, if it's 8 hours or 12 hours of just constant on our feet labor, we're extremely exhausted and tired at the end of the day. We usually work really hard to try to fulfill the needs of our customers, to meet deadlines and promises that we put on to make sure that customers get their cars in a timely manner. For most people, they do thank us, but I don't think they realize how much work actually goes into a vehicle and taking things apart and accurately putting them back together as well. That's one thing that we try to really separate ourselves from other places, is that we really try to make it look like no one's ever been in the vehicle to begin with. Sometimes customers don't see that, and nor should they. They hire us to do a job, and our job is to fix the vehicles right. So, but sometimes a little recognition could go a long way. I would love to say yes. I really do, but the reality is that this industry is not for everybody. I think it would be good for somebody to try it and see if this is a good fit for them. But like I said, the reality is it's not for everybody. So it really comes down to the individual.
Like the intuition or like the know-how of taking something apart and putting it back together, no problems, then I would recommend it.
I would say yes. I would recommend it. But there's a lot of things in the industry that do need to be changed to make it a better place for people to work in, for sure.
If you want to become a mechanic and want to have the doors open pretty much anywhere, is to go get your ASE certifications, because even though some dealers have their own programs, that ASE certification will get you a lot further than not having it. So that's one advice I could give people that I didn't do when I was younger. And over time I had to do some of those certifications anyways. So yeah, if I could go back in time, I would buy a bunch of Bitcoin and I wouldn't have to work as hard. That's what I would have done.
If I was able to go back 8 years in time, right when I first started in this industry, I would tell myself, don't bend over backwards for people and say no. 100%. That is the two biggest things I would tell my younger self.
Someone asks for something ridiculous, say no. Even if you hurt someone's feelings, say no.
One thing that I've learned working on cars that applies to patience. Big time. Requires a lot of patience to work on cars, and that's translated into my personal life very heavily because I was never a patient person. But you definitely have to be patient with working on vehicles, as things do take time and things will usually not go the way you think it will go. So with that being said, you have to develop very high tolerance for patience, to get through the sometimes really crappy repairs, that really will, I think a lot of people will agree with me on this, question them why we're in this industry, why are we working on these cars, and for lack of a better term, why are we working on this piece of shit? But with patience and really perseverance, it's what really gets us through the days, put our best effort, our best foot forward to working on these cars, so that way our customers can always know that they have a reliable car to drive in. I don't even think I can answer that myself. I don't know. I think the fact that I've taken on some massive projects, and that I want to always do good and actually do my part and finish these commitments, it gets me up every single day. Just trying to be a good person, really. That's what gets me up. It's not for the money, it's not for the materialistic items. It's really just trying to put my best self forward, my best foot forward, and trying my best every single day, for sure. It does get me up because there's a lot of commitments I'm already into that if I didn't do that, they would be not a good day for me. So I always try to take that into consideration. So.
Do you have any pets?
Yes, I have 4 pets. I think he's here in the shop. The other 3 are at home. Here he is. This is shop manager. Employee of the Year. I think he's increased our sales by 200% just because he is the shop manager. His name's Max. He's a good boy.
You love the dog?
It's just Alex and his son.